Nobody wants President Newsom either. Nobody believes in that guy. That guy's a f***ing con man. Everything he did in California, from trying to mandate vaccines for kids to being caught public without a mask and lying about the fact that he was outdoors.
Yeah.
Nobody believes in that guy. He's just a politician.
The fear, the horror, the hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me, let's just get it over with. Tough guy.
Gavin Newsom must be sweating bullets right now after his media favorite, Bill Maher, accidentally exposed his shady actions. To be clear, Maher didn't intend to throw him on the bus, but the damage is already done, and now millions are seeing Newsom for the smooth-talking fraud he truly is. And guess what? Celebrities are jumping in too. One of the loudest voices is none other than podcast king Joe Rogan, who slammed Newsom for destroying California and turning into a dystopian mess. And yes, I got all the fiery clips coming. But first, hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. You've probably seen this clip.
Yesterday, with my friend Tavis Smiley. I'm an investor and a supporter of that station. And he said, who do you want for running president? I mentioned, I think you'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that if you could win look at the swing state, there's only 8 of them.
So it's this very clip that triggered Gavin Newsom's epic meltdown, the one we're about to dive into, because it blew up the carefully crafted image he's been projecting for years. Sure, a few voices like Bill Maher still flirt with the idea that Newsom could one day make a decent president. But let's not kid ourselves. Millions of Americans see him as far too woke and out of touch to lead the nation. This is the same man who pushed for laws requiring toy stores to have gender-neutral sections, and who seems to support legislation allowing teachers to withhold information from parents if their children express a desire to transition genders. That's not leadership. It's ideological extremism. And thanks to Maher unintentionally pulling back the curtain, many people are finally waking up to it. But Maher isn't the only one questioning Newsom's competency. Another high-profile critic is Joe Rogan, the hugely popular podcaster who didn't hold back while tearing into Newsom for how disastrously he's managed California since taking office, even mocking his ambitions to one day run for president.
Nobody wants President Newsom either. Nobody believes in that guy. That guy's a f***ing con man. Everything he did in California, from trying to mandate vaccines for kids to being caught public without a mask and lying about the fact that he was outdoors.
Yeah.
Nobody believes in that guy. He's just a politician. Just a stone-cold, narrative-driven politician. Nobody thinks he's a real human. Whether you like Trump or not, whether you think he's corrupt or not, that's a human being. You know what that guy is. Same thing with RFK Jr. Whether you believe that he's correct about vaccines or whether you believe his policies would be effective, and you know that's a human being. With Newsom, you got like this construct, this cardboard cutout of a person. I don't think people want that, but they might want it more than they want President Trump.
By the time Joe Rogan released that video across his social platforms, Gavin Newsom was already spiraling. The pressure was mounting fast, and his panic was plain for anyone paying attention to see. He struggled to maintain his composure during press appearances, with his usual polished image crumbling into stammering and defensive responses. Bill Maher's takedown had already shaken his support base, but it was Rogan's scathing critique that truly sent shockwaves to the political landscape. When two major cultural figures from opposite ends of the spectrum start publicly tearing into you, it's no longer just a PR issue. It's a full-blown political reckoning. Clearly rattled, Newsom knew he had to act quickly, scrambling to regain control and salvage his image, especially as tensions in Los Angeles were rapidly escalating. That's when he suddenly decided to speak out about the law and order issue he had been widely criticized for ignoring or minimizing. But by then, the damage was already done, and his reaction came off as a desperate move rather than genuine leadership, something the public could see right through.
Where's your decency, Mr. President? Stop. Rescind this order. It's illegal and unconstitutional. And I said it, I'll say it again, it's immoral. You're creating the conditions that you claim you're solving, and you're not. And you're putting real people's lives at risk. This is a serious moment, and it requires serious leadership. And it's time for you to be a commander-in-chief of the United States of America. And I will have your back if you want to work in a relationship of trust and truth in the spirit of our founding fathers. But you come after poor kids, you come after families, we will do everything in our power to stand up and stand in your way.
Instead of addressing the growing unrest that erupted after the IC protests in California, Gavin Newsom took a completely different route. He went on the offensive and threatened Donald Trump. Rather than calming tensions or offering real solutions, Newsom chose to escalate the situation by politicizing the moment. Did you notice how he framed the IC arrests? He portrayed them as brutal attacks on innocent children and families. A classic move. But let's be honest, are we even surprised? That's been a woke left strategy for years. Twist the narrative, stir up emotions, and paint Trump as a villain, no matter the facts. What was actually a targeted enforcement operation against individuals in the country illegally was suddenly, in Newsom's version, a full-blown humanitarian crisis. It's no longer about truth. It's about optics and outrage. And Newsom jumped at the chance to score political points. But California needs real leadership, not political theater. And when he didn't get the attention he was hoping for, Newsom went so far as to challenge Tom Homan to arrest him.
Get your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
Yep, that's how desperate he sounded. Newsom was flailing, scrambling to get the public on his side fast. So what did he do? He leaned hard into emotional appeal, saying exactly what he thought people wanted to hear, hoping to stir up sympathy and cast himself as the brave defender of the marginalized. He was chasing that perfect photo op of the bold leader standing up for the voiceless. But if you look just beneath the surface, it's clear this wasn't about the people at all. It was about Gavin Newsom's image. He was an undocumented immigrant, so he knew he hadn't broken any immigration laws. And that's exactly why he had the audacity to publicly challenge Director Tom Homan, daring him to make an arrest. It was all a calculated stunt, loud, dramatic, and completely hollow. He knew there was no real risk, which only made the whole scene feel like cheap political theater. And sure enough, Tom Homan didn't let that slide. He fired back at Newsom's hollow grandstanding. And here's what he had to say.
Then the reporter asked me, well, could Governor Newsom or Mayor Bass be arrested? I said, well, no one's above the law. If they cross the line and commit a crime, absolutely they can. So there was no discussion about arresting Newsom. And so, you know, what he's done, he's failed that state. He waited 2 days of that city burning and people getting hurt, officers being assaulted before he made any declaration of an unlawful assembly. He's late to the game. President Trump isn't late to the game.
Tom Homan didn't hold back. He went straight for the jugular, tearing into Gavin Newsom's anti-ICE political stunt with sharp precision. If Newsom truly wanted to be arrested, Homan said, then he should go ahead and actually break the law, commit a real crime. Then he'd find out what the inside of a jail cell looks like soon enough. It was a brutal but brutally honest clapback that laid bare just how empty and performative Newsom's grandstanding really was. And Homan wasn't done. He directly blamed Newsom for the chaos unfolding on the streets. While the city burned, businesses were looted, and law-abiding citizens feared for their safety, Newsom stood frozen for 2 full days, offering no leadership, no plan, just silence. Then, when President Trump finally stepped in and sent the National Guard to restore order, Newsom had the nerve to complain, questioning why Trump acted without his permission, even though he had already proven he was either unwilling or incapable of taking action himself. And believe me, Homan wasn't finished yet. He had plenty more to say.
I keep hearing this term ICE raids, ICE raids. What happened with how this riot started is that ICE was serving a series of criminal warrants at a business being investigated for money laundering, customs fraud, and serious violations on sending money to criminal cartels that in Colombia and Mexico that fund cartel activities in the United States. It's a part of an overall conspiracy that ICE is investigating. So we're arresting bad people. We were enforcing laws and following up on a serious criminal investigation on cartel financing. So that's exactly what ICE did. And ICE took a lot of bad people off the street that day. We arrested a sexual predator, arrested gang members, arrested somebody that had an armed robbery conviction.
So let's set the record straight. What exactly was ICE doing? They were arresting criminals, not families out for ice cream, not children on their way to school, but actual criminals who had established an elaborate money laundering network, funneling cash to violent cartels in Colombia and Mexico. These weren't low-level offenders. They were organized operatives funding deadly criminal enterprises. ICE's operation was focused on national security and public safety. But what did the legacy media report? That IC was raiding homes, tearing children from their parents, and targeting innocent immigrant families. It was a complete misrepresentation of the facts. And leading the charge in spreading that false narrative was Gavin Newsom. He took to the podium and portrayed IC agents as villains, completely ignoring the fact that real criminals were being removed from the streets. Instead of standing with law enforcement, Newsom chose to mislead the public, knowingly pushing a lie because it made him look like a heroic defender of the oppressed. It was political theater at its most manipulative. And Tom Homan's sharp, no-nonsense response sent Newsom into yet another public meltdown.
He's dictating what universities themselves can teach. He's targeting law firms and the judicial branch that are the foundations of an orderly and civil society. He's calling for a sitting governor to be arrested for no other reason than to, in his own words, for getting elected. And we all know this Saturday, he's ordering our American heroes, the United States military, and forcing them to put on a vulgar display to celebrate his birthday, just as other failed dictators have done in the past. Look, this isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles. When Donald Trump sought blanket authority to commandeer the National Guard, he made that order apply to every state in this nation. This is about all of us.
Gavin Newsom still couldn't resist putting on a show for the cameras. Ever performer, he stepped into the spotlight with a trembling voice and eyes that looked like they were on the verge of tears, clearly trying to squeeze out a few for dramatic effect. It was political theater at its most obvious, and anyone watching could see right through it. But he didn't stop there. He began calling on other governors to join him in standing up against Donald Trump, urging a united front of resistance. Resistance against what exactly? Law enforcement doing its job? This is a signature move of the woke left. Emotional blackmail wrapped in empty rhetoric, without a single shred of real evidence. They lean on optics over outcomes, stirring outrage instead of offering real solutions. Rather than addressing crime or protecting communities, they attempt to guilt the public into compliance, using sob stories and over-the-top speeches. Newsom's performance was just one more desperate act in a long-running play, one where facts are ignored, narrative is king, and leadership is replaced by virtue signaling.
I know many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear, but I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to him.
In the end, Gavin Newsom's performance unraveled faster than he could wipe away his stage tears. What began as a calculated attempt to demonize IC and cast himself as some kind of moral hero quickly collapsed under the weight of facts, backlash, and public scrutiny. Bill Maher unintentionally revealed his incompetence. Mel Gibson publicly shredded his credibility. And Tom Homan dismantled his political theatrics piece by piece. Rather than supporting law enforcement or offering real solutions, Newsom chose to cater to the woke mob, spin false narratives, and weaponize emotion for personal gain. His phony outrage, empty threats, and desperate calls for a multi-state rebellion against Trump expose a man far more invested in appearance than actual impact. Californians deserve better than a leader who manipulates the truth while their cities burn and cartels flourish. But now, thanks to a few bold voices, the mask has come off. Gavin Newsom isn't a hero. He's just another political performer who finally got caught in his own act. And that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.